People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make believe.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Will You Accept This Prose, the podcast where the two of us analyze all the garbage, the bullshit that comes from ABC's The Bachelor. And luckily on this episode, the contestants from this season of The Bachelor also discuss all the bullshit from this season of The Bachelor. I am your author, Max Churchwell.
I am your analyzer, Kinsey Brenton.
And we're on the episode of Jason Mesnick's season of The Bachelor, one of the best episodes of any season.
Episode of any season.
It's the Women Tell All.
The Women Tell All.
And the great thing about that is, as I said, we get to get the insider report on all the bullshit from this season. And, we're going to do our best here. Obviously, there are not really, and I mentioned this at the end of last week's episode, but there's not really a lot going on narratively in this episode, of course, because it's primarily a look back. So what we're going to be doing is sort of seeing if any of the information we got from this episode sort of confirms or denies the theories that we have been developing and working with this whole time.
Right, and there still is plenty of editor influence in this episode. Not so much producer influence, but editor influence, where they will choose which reactions to show at certain times.
I was going to say, yeah, the only thing they can do, it is live.
Yes.
It's a live show, so they can't do anything like, oh, well, let's take this out of context or whatever bullshit. All they can do is say, like, oh, while Natalie is talking about how she was always the good one and avoided conflict, the other women are like, dog.
Yeah.
Are you sure, dog?
Right. Well, first up, we get a recap, and the recap for this episode serves as a kind of warm-up for what they're going to be talking about for the rest of the episode.
Yes.
So these are the moments that they found most important to bring up in this episode. So they say that Jillian got the first date and the first kiss.
Also, the first fantasy suite. What up?
Yeah, she's got all the firsts. He says something about there's more to Melissa than meets the eye, and then we get a little clip of her saying she wanted to be a teacher, which they don't really talk about
It's
at all.
not brought up again.
It is not brought up, which is weird why they would bring it up in the recap.
And it's also weird that after she said, I'm going to be a teacher, Jason was like, oh, well, then you'll have the summers off. What are you going to do in the summers? And she, just to remind you, she did say play with my kids despite the fact that she does not have children.
Yeah.
Just interesting to me. I'm going to play with the concepts of my children. The same as Jillian had a dream about the concept of Jason's child, Ty.
Right. And we've talked about all that before. But that was just a reminder.
This is our recap.
Right. Remember all of those fun things that we said?
Come on, guys, you remember.
So, and then he also says Jason made Stephanie's dream come true, talking about when Sophia, Stephanie's daughter, came and Stephanie shoulder checked her real good in the face.
Yeah, happy birthday, Sophia.
Boom. Then they say Natalie got the date of a lifetime. And this is probably, Natalie gets a ton of attention in this episode.
Yes, she does, and none of it positive.
None of it positive. We had mentioned Natalie getting a villain edit.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out Natalie just was a duck.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Which the recap, or not the recap, the teaser from last episode kind of, it suggested that Megan would be the one to get most of the negative attention this episode, but she didn't really get a lot. Like, she got some, of course, but most of the negative attention was focused on Natalie.
Yeah, because there were only sort of like 2 incidents that Megan was a part of where, she came off looking pretty bad.
Right. Then we hear Chris say that Molly went on a date to Jason's place and made Bachelor history.
Yes, which you will recall was her prideful walk of shame.
Yeah, when she spent the night in the tent with Jason, which it didn't say the only Bachelor history comment that was made was in this recap, which is what was Bachelor history, the first woman to stay overnight with a bachelor before a fantasy suite.
I believe so, because in the episode where that happened, that's what Molly says on her way back before she's like, oh, I'm so nervous to be walking into the house in his clothes, is she was saying, like, I'm the first woman in Bachelor history to have a walk of shame. And one has to assume, if she's the first to have a walk of shame, she is also the first to have been set up for a walk of shame.
Right. Well, I mean, Molly wouldn't be super informed on if... maybe she'd watched every season in the past.
I was going to say, you don't fucking know that. You really think people go on this show without having watched a significant amount of this show?
Yes.
Yeah, there's
all the
defo
time.
some. Yeah, you've got me there.
Okay, but then they mentioned the hometowns, which we didn't hear anything we hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
And then fantasy suites, which once again,
it was last fucking week.
It was last week. But yeah, that was all the recap. And then we get a teaser. The only note I have from the teaser is that Chris calls Natalie out.
Yeah.
She says,
which, fuck, I mean, I guess that means there is some editing. There's enough of a delay, a significant delay, for them to do some editing there.
Yeah, which...
That's how they figure out what reaction shot to use and shit.
So do they film, like, is it, like, if we sat down in 2009 and turned on our TV set when it was airing, is that live, or is the live talking about it being in front of a live studio audience?
That's a good point. Damn, I guess I don't know. Well, actually... I would say it probably does refer to it being in front of a studio audience because, like, usually live broadcasts have the little stamp in, like, the bottom left corner of, live TV, and this did not have that. So it probably does just refer to there being an audience.
Right. But, yeah, so Chris calls Natalie out in this teaser
so fucking hard.
Because Natalie says, something like, I tried to avoid confrontation in the house. And he says, well, did you? I don't think you really did try too hard to avoid confrontation.
Yep.
And she goes, really?
Let me confront you about saying I didn't avoid confrontation.
Right. So, first thing we get in the episode is a pre-recorded talk with Jason.
Yes.
Where Chris goes and talks to Jason. I don't know when.
Yeah. Could not say for sure when. Damn, I don't know. Do you think maybe that came... Because, I mean, the Women Tell All is still a rather significant amount of time after, like, the shooting has wrapped.
Right.
So maybe that was done, like, right after they got done with all the shit. They were like, let's take a look back. You know?
Maybe. So, in this talk, Chris said that things in the house this season were super intense. Maybe the most intense ever.
Yeah.
This season apparently made a lot of history.
I guess
a lot of
fucking
Bachelor
so.
history. One thing that made the situation in the house so intense was Megan. They talk about Megan and they talk about the General Hospital kiss, where, if you remember the soap opera episode,
God,
where Megan just jumped Jason so hard in their scene.
Yeah.
And he was saying that at that point, the relationship between he and Megan was just a friendship.
Mhm.
And then she went for it, and he was trying to keep it still a part of the scene that they were acting.
He did also say, though, like, I was just working with what I was given.
Yeah.
Interesting, Jason. You are the serial smoochist.
Right.
So.
But then they talked about Shannon's kiss.
God, it still fucking yucks me right the hell out.
If you guys remember, it's the same date, but after the filming part.
Yeah, everybody got emotional that night.
Yes.
Which was understandable given what they had just had to witness each other doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it shows the little clip where Shannon was having her breakdown, and she just was snotting so hard on this napkin.
So hard.
Like, she was picking her nose with it and shit, and blowing her nose, wiping her nose, and then fucking handed the thing to Jason against his will, and then tried to kiss him, which Chris says something about the infamous kiss, or a kiss with so much notoriety, or whatever the hell, which is, she leaned in to try to kiss, still just covered in snot and slobber.
She was covered in snot, slobber. She was crying. It was, Jason said, he was like, there was snot everywhere. She was crying. He said it was just not a great time to kiss.
Yes.
But she went for it.
She did. And that is why Jason's response was to do the most, it's in the church pageant or whatever, their production, their play, and there has to be a kiss. It was just the most tiny and over. That's literally the sound it makes. It's just it. I don't know if that's even, if you guys can't hear that, they had to crank the sensitivity on those mics. They cranked the fuck out of that particular audio.
Ugh. Yeah. And then they talk a little bit about Stephanie, about how she had said watching Jason on Deanna's season kind of helped her get over her husband's death.
Which is really weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, if it worked for her, it worked for her, but
it's just strange.
It's
a little bit
strange.
odd. But I mean, she believed love is real and she could love again. And, hey man, that's great.
Yeah. And Jason even said something about Stephanie being on the show came about because of all the clouds aligning. Not the stars. The stars did not align, but the clouds did.
The clouds aligned. Interesting, Jason.
Has anyone ever said that before? Is that a thing at all?
I am certainly unaware of it being a thing, if it is a thing.
Man. So then they talk about Jillian, where Jason says that Jillian is the ultimate friend.
Yes.
To which Chris responds, talking about their fantasy suite day.
Yeah.
Says, so you're sitting there in the hot tub with the Jillian.
Your friend.
Your friend. Which, if you remember, that hot tub got real steamy.
Real steamy. But, that's just friends.
Yeah, how you do with your friends. And then Chris moves on to talk about the camp date, the overnight camping date that Jason had with Molly.
And the note I have here is, in all caps, what happened in that tent? Because that is what Chris says. Exactly.
The world wants to know.
And I do have to note that right after he asked that, Jason, and it seems, Jason is a relatively robotic person, I would argue.
Yeah.
But this is it sounded so scripted. He just goes, whoa, easy, buddy.
Yeah, with
exactly
the
like
hands
that.
up and the little lean back. Whoa, easy, buddy.
Yeah, pretty big physical response. Nothing in the vocal response.
But Jason says that it was completely innocent. Chris asked in terms of,
baseball, because this is national TV or whatever it was.
Jason says first base.
Yes. Although, Also, Jason ends up talking about the fact that, like, they got done with shooting for that date at 3 a.m. and Molly was going to have to leave at 6 a.m. And he said something about, so we just had 3 hours. And Chris immediately jumps in and says, 3 hours of sex is a lot.
Yeah, he just said it.
Yeah. Yep.
Man.
But then we get some funnies. We get some, like, the people at home didn't get to see this.
Mm-hmm. There's some never before seen footage. So apparently on Naomi's hometown, they had a horse ride
Yes.
where Jason's horse just
Freaked out.
it gets spooked by something,
Yeah.
and it's
It doesn't buck. It was a dangerous situation, but it was not as bad as it could have been for Jason. It's basically like this horse just started cutting donuts, and poor Jason was about to get flung off, and he actually very smoothly is able to dismount.
So slick.
He was sliding over to the side, and at first it looked like he was genuinely falling, but then he managed to swing that leg out, and he like did a twist landing to it, no issue.
Yeah, landed on his feet perfectly. 10 out of 10.
He has a cat's grace. Thank God. Or this could have ended as a very different season. In memoriam of Jason Mesnick.
Oh my god.
Fuck. How's that women tell all? It's actually the wake. No, it's the wake. That is what The Bachelor would fucking do, I swear to God. Okay.
Ugh.
Then there's a weird moment from Molly's hometown when they were like golfing at the country club.
Mm-hmm.
Where apparently they made a bet or like had established a game where like the person who lost on that hole, and this is the most whack-ass, backward-ass bullshit, the person who lost on the hole had to wear the other person's pants.
Yeah.
And like, you know, in fairness, I understand a little bit why Molly would make that the deal, because she was in a rather short skirt.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, assuming it worked the same way, Jason won, so he's taking off his fucking khakis
right
from his Best Buy uniform.
Yeah, and so she puts on the khakis, so she's actually wearing pants, and Jason is just out there with his boxers.
Yup. She's wearing khakis over her skirt and just fucking chilling.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jason's like, who would have thought the people that know the most about golf etiquette would be the one breaking all the rules on the private golf course or whatever? Then we get a quick little moment where it was like when Melissa had to go over to Jason's house in Seattle because Ty didn't want him to leave. Mm-hmm. She had to wait like 30 minutes because Ty did not want to go to bed.
Yeah, he was being very difficult. And there's even a shot of Melissa kind of, you know, like...
tapping her
fingers, just like
sort of looks up. Maybe she heard something at that point. In fairness, she has no way to entertain herself.
Yeah, she's just
she does not have
there.
any electronic devices.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine she couldn't even turn on the TV. So I mean, she just had to sit around after cleaning his house a little. Had to sit around and wait.
Poor girl. Maybe I think we might have mentioned this when on the episode when it happened, but maybe she started cleaning up to have something to do.
To pass the fucking time. That's what I think for sure.
Yeah. And then we get
we have to do this so briefly. This does not deserve that much airtime, in my opinion.
There's just a little apparently they did some improv on the General Hospital soap opera date. But it's just all the women yelling on top of each other. Yeah,
Jason says something about somebody had to die and somebody had to kiss me. And I think it was Shannon who went in for the kiss.
Shannon went in for the kiss, and Jason ended up stabbing himself.
He killed himself just to escape it. And yeah, dog. Same here.
Yeah.
But then we get, if you'll recall, Molly rapped when they had like that love song competition.
No, Molly didn't rap. Shannon rapped.
Oh, yeah, Molly had the bullshit, like, you are the best swan of the sea. Yeah. For whatever the fuck reason. I guess it's because, like, at some point, Jason rapped on Deanna's season, and everybody was so, like, oh, here comes the rapper, Jason Mesnick, DJJ. And so he tries to rap to her, but he does, in fairness, he says something about it's more like a Dr. Seuss rap.
Right.
And I feel like Dr. Seuss would be horrifically offended.
He is turning over in his grave.
Yes. Because this rap was fucking terrible. And when Chris, like, when it cuts back from that, because between each little vignette, it goes back and Chris is, like, commenting on it, or questioning what was going on to Jason. And in this one, he ends up saying, I mean, we knew from The Bachelorette that you suck. So why were you trying to rap again? Or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Next up is the notorious tub farts from the Fantasy Suite episode.
And Chris even asks, he's like, now, was it the tub or was that you?
In fairness, Jason goes, no, I would own up to it if that was me.
Yeah.
That was the tub. And then, when Chris questions him a little bit more about Fantasy Suites, he's just like, I don't want to talk about that.
Right.
Which is respectable.
He does say that, with Fantasy Suites, it's the first time you're really off camera.
Alone, yeah.
So you get to actually talk about things that you
Some
wouldn't want
real
to talk
shit.
about on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets real red faced. He's like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. Do you think Jillian had, like, problematic ideals? And that's why it's like, I don't want to talk about this.
That's what it was. It wasn't that he didn't want to. It wasn't a I don't kiss and tell. It was a.
Man, I can't talk about how Republican Jillian is.
Crazy conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just. Yeah.
So then there's like
just a bunch
20
of
or 25 minutes of bullshit
that we don't care about.
Yeah. It was unrelated to the season.
Yeah. I the only thing I want to really say about, I want to say two things about it. One, so they brought on two couples that had
oh yeah,
succeeded.
Successful
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to I'm sure that they make sure to do that, to be like
every fucking time, more or
this
less.
Works
as much as they can. They're like, hey, these people did it, you can do it too.
Yeah. And there's the first couple that came on and they were like expecting a second baby or something.
Yeah.
And then Chris was like, a lot of people think that Trish and Ryan are our only successful bachelor couple, but that's untrue. There's another one who apparently they were together and then they broke up and now they're back together.
And it was relatively recently. I think he said it was pretty recent.
Yeah.
But their relationship seems like it kind of sucks a little bit.
Yeah.
I do have to say, what was it? Okay, no, the first note I have to make is that this husband, whatever his name was, looked startlingly similar to Ryan from the previous.
His name was Charlie, was his name. This was Charlie and Sarah. So, yeah, he looked very similar, but I looked it up. They are no longer together.
Of course they're not.
They broke up, like, that same year.
Fuck. I mean, and well, here's the thing, and this is why I said it sucked. Like, there were some, I guess, like, red flags, sort of, for the nature of their relationship. Because, like, Charlie talks about, he struggled with drinking, and that's what led them to break up.
Sarah brought it up first.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Because Chris asked why their relationship
had
didn't work.
ended.
And
yeah.
She said, well, he had some problems with drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in 2 years, which, is good for him.
That's great.
But then he says, and she said that was like 99% of the problem, so I'm 99% perfect.
Yeah, and then what a great partner. He says, I thought it was the drinking that was keeping us together.
Yeah.
Oofa,
yeah.
doofa.
It's like, dude, you don't joke about that.
Yeah, and fucking everybody there laughed.
Yeah.
God, 2009?
Ugh. But yeah, this is the 13th season of The Bachelor.
Yes,
and
they have 2 relationships to point to.
Yep, and one of them did not last long after that.
Did not last long.
Yeah, and I don't even know how many seasons of The Bachelorette there had been. At least 2.
Yeah, for sure. But okay, now finally, after all that bullshit, we get to the actual Women Tell All proper.
Real quick, can we talk about just the other thing that they showed, which was just a bunch of Bachelor alums just like hanging out and wilding out that was the other thing. I was like, what do the bachelors and bachelorettes do after cameras are off?
And apparently a bunch of them fuck.
Yeah. It probably gave them the idea for Bachelor in Paradise. Well, finally, the women get out. It's the women tell all. Frickin' finally. And these are apparently the most memorable women of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's not all of them. We've got Raquel, Lisa.
Who does not speak.
Right. Raquel, who does not speak. Lisa, who does not speak.
Yep.
Erica, who speaks quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, who says like one thing. Megan, who speaks quite a bit. Renee, doesn't speak at all. Lauren, speaks quite a bit. Stephanie didn't get to say much.
She really didn't. And I mean, it's because, like, the only real topics of conversation here, unless somebody is, like, put in the hot seat, which we'll get to in a second, they only talk about, the drama in the house, the fights. And so Stephanie, there was nothing Stephanie could say about that, because she had none of it.
Yeah, she stayed, and we'll talk a little bit about, she stayed above all that drama in the house. Next is Sharon, who didn't say anything. Natalie, who said a lot.
A lot that we'll get to.
Yeah. Carrie didn't say anything. Shannon said a little bit. Nikki said quite a bit in relation to Natalie, but not too much. Naomi, who said a little bit, and Jillian, who got her own hot seat.
Yes.
So only 15 of the 25 women are here. And a lot of them are wearing jeans.
So many of them are wearing jeans. But the very first thing that is said is basically that Shannon's a fucking creep and everybody knows it. Because Chris mentions, like, you knew quite a bit about Jason before you came on his season. And she was like, oh, really? Or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing that happens. And I don't know, there could be things that I've skipped over here. But the next note I have is just that everybody loves Stephanie.
Everyone loves Stephanie.
Because the only, like, comment she makes on any of the drama was Chris asked her, I believe, like, as a mom.
Yeah, this happens a little bit later, but he asks, Stephanie, as a mom, how did you feel about all the drama that was going on in the house? And she said, well, I like to look at the positive in everyone. She tried to stay out of the drama and just look at the good in all of the other women.
Yeah.
What a wonderful woman.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think she actually says something about, like, I've had people say mean things about me before. And I think she also did say, like, I've said mean things before, and I just don't want any more of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's when Chris says,
raise your hand if you don't love Stephanie.
Yeah.
And the whole crowd just starts applauding. Nobody's raising their fucking hands whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think it was Naomi who's like, well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
I think Stephanie was sitting right behind Naomi and Jillian.
Yeah.
And they were all, like, touching hands. And, like, I think she even patted both of them on the head or something like that.
Something like that.
So cute.
But we got to blast through some of this stuff. So the biggest thing, like, I mean, Chris talks about, the sort of competition in the house, especially the voting thing that first night, which was such fucking bullshit. But he sort of asks, well, he talks to both Megan and Erica about it because they're the ones that got in a fight that first night.
Yes.
And I think Chris kind of calls Erica out, says something about, you were so against Megan, but how did it feel to get the second highest amount of votes? And she says all this stuff about, I was just trying to be myself. I was trying to be funny. And I guess, that rubbed people the wrong way. And we get a reaction shot from Natalie. She's having none of this bullshit. She hates that Erica was trying to be herself.
Yeah.
But they talk more about the voting, and they do show, like, kind of a clip of it. And first of all, I don't know if we marked this the first time. We had certainly forgotten about it if we did. But at one point, she says something about, God, they're all ingrates.
No, it was like, they showed the clip of Chris saying, and by far the most votes, Megan. And then it's like a cut to a talking head where Megan's like, they're ingrates.
Yeah. But she did, like, she was kind of laughing, like, when they were showing the video. She seems to, like, she's over it. She thinks it's a funny situation now.
Yeah, because they use these whenever they show clips from the show, they use these little reaction boxes in the bottom left corner where they'll show live reactions of the women watching the stuff unfolding. And yeah, she was laughing during the whole her getting voted off thing.
But then we also get to see that, like, when in the video it's showing, like, what the other women had to say about Megan, Erica's laughing at a lot of the sort of slams that Megan caught.
Gets slammed a lot, and Erica's laughing at a lot of it.
Sorry if there's a number of considerably loud clatters and shit. The people in the studio above us, because we're in a studio still.
This is a studio.
They're very inconsiderate, and I guess just jump off their table a lot. Who knows? They're trying to do stunts. But
yeah. Parkour.
They do. They talk a little bit here about Natalie going home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it shows her, like, dramatic exit.
Where she was just a dick.
Yeah, she got the necklace taken off of her, and she tried to be like, oh, well, there are other women in the house who are causing all this drama, and you're gonna send me home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a lot. She has all this yay to talk in the limo on the way out.
And then it's like, what, you're gonna send me home? You're not attracted to me? Who do you think you are, God?
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's quite bad. But we do also find out Nikki was so glad that Natalie was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And when that's revealed in this video, like, Nikki is pretty much just like, yeah. Like, she does not regret it. She does not think, oh, it's so funny now. She's just like, yeah, dog, I was right.
Yeah.
But we gotta keep moving forward pretty quick. So, next up, Chris asks about, did Megan feel that she was treated unfairly? And Megan just kind of says, like, and this is, completely understandable. She talked about it. It's such a sort of startling experience that first night.
Mm-hmm. She said she walked into the mansion. She was shell-shocked.
Yeah.
And she said that because of that, she probably didn't give a good first impression.
Yeah, which is a very self-aware thing to say.
Yeah, except she did get even worse as the season went on.
It is true.
So
she had an excuse that night. But Natalie was having none of it.
No, Natalie wasn't having anything of what any of the other women said.
Yeah, so surprise, surprise, Natalie's still a jock. Next up, we kind of get Erica's take on the drama between her and Megan that first night. And she actually, she was kind of really downplaying about, like, it was a small tiff that we resolved so quickly or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when Chris sort of tosses things back to Megan, she says something about, I thought we were close. Dog, it's the first night.
Yeah.
You've known her like 2 hours at most.
Right. The drama that they are referring to is, it's just a dumb situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Molly stole Jason away when she had already talked to him twice.
Mm-hmm.
And Megan was like, I don't think that was in good faith. And Erica was like, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
We have more class or higher character, something like that.
Yeah, it shows a lot of character. And then she talked to Molly later about, hey, some of the women are acting this way, but, like, we got your back.
Yeah.
Where Megan was like
6 feet away.
6 feet away. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I don't know if you knew, but I was right over there and heard your whole conversation.
Yeah.
Just a dumb thing to get super in arms about.
Yeah.
And, like, Erica said it was like a little tiff that they resolved real quickly. But yeah, Megan saying that I thought we were close.
That's some bullshit.
First night.
But next up, Chris kind of asks about when, regarding that drama, Jason was asking the women in the house, like, so what's going on? And Lauren was the only one to tell him what was going on. And she was saying all of this stuff about, like, well, he asked me, and Erica and Megan were kind of the ones stirring up trouble or whatever. So I told him, and Chris kind of jumps in and he's like, you threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Which she does stand against. But, yeah, here's where we get more of that, like, oh, it was such a little thing from Erica. And then she actually says that Lauren and Natalie were the problem
Yeah,
children.
she said that they had a little tiff, but watching the season, you can see that Lauren and Natalie are the ones causing the most drama.
Yeah, and in fairness, Natalie was always just, but of course, she actually says at one point, like, she did not know that the women did not like her.
Yeah.
But this is where we get, more of that, like, Stephanie, what was your take on it? And actually, no, it was that, this is where that question was asked, because I accidentally jumped ahead earlier, but Chris Harrison says that Stephanie was always above the fray, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this is, just to remind you, everybody fucking loves Stephanie.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? Stephanie was not the only mom on the show. And when Chris said, as a mom, how did you feel about the drama going on? You know who else was a mom? Megan. The one who was, like, in the middle of a lot of the drama.
Yeah, eat that shit, Megan. Chris Harrison just dunked the fuck out of you. But now Natalie gets put on the hot seat to talk about, her exit and all the shit she had to say and everything. And then also, like, the way the other women felt about her. And this is, like, she is so surprised to find out, like, she stirred any kind of shit up.
Yeah, Chris Harrison said something about Natalie who stirred things up, and it cuts to her, and she's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
She is so...
entirely lacks self-awareness. She also, Chris says something, he comments on, like, them having to take that jewelry away from her or whatever, and she's talking about how people just stereotype me, they think I'm so superficial, whatever.
She's like, I don't even like jewelry.
I'm
actually
allergic to jewelry. Yeah, and then Chris Harrison goes, oh, you're allergic to jewelry, look at your arm, and, like, holds up her, like, grabs her left hand and lifts up her arm, and it's just covered with bracelets.
She's got so much bracelets, and she's like, oh yeah, this one was like $1 in a bin, which is like 75 cents, it's a quarter, and I was like, shut up, Natalie.
Yeah.
How are you gonna say you're allergic to jewelry? You can't be allergic, you can be allergic to a certain, like,
to
metal,
silver, yeah.
But I'm allergic to jewelry.
Bunch of bullshit.
What she says. And she says, I love clothes and shoes and shopping and all this stuff. So it's...
Well, we're seeing, like, it's in the recap where she especially is talking about, she brought a full suitcase of just shoes, and there's a talking head where she's talking about, I do like those things. And then we see Jason trying to ask her about more than those things. And this was when she had nothing to say about herself and just said, like, I love bears.
Yeah, and even from that, Jason was trying to dig farther. Like,
he tried so hard. He could have just smooched her, but no, he tried so hard.
He's like, so you like bears, like koala bears, panda bears? She's like, just all bears.
Just all bears. And she, like, when we see her reaction to this recap, like, she's proud of everything.
Yeah, all of the stuff she said in that limo that really... She talks a lot about being stereotyped as someone who's super superficial, but she's the one who's saying, I'm crazy attractive. If you don't find me attractive, who do you think you are, God?
Yeah. And she comments, she said something about, I'm so surprised to hear all this because I tried to be mature. I tried to avoid conflict. And Megan is so confused throughout this whole interview. But,
yeah, because she said that she tried to avoid confrontation and play the mature role, and it cuts to Megan, and she's like, like, she has this just, what?
And this is where we get Chris Harrison being like, I don't think you tried that hard to avoid confrontation. And Natalie's fucking, really?
Yeah. She
just sucks.
Natalie is so pissed and so defensive throughout this whole interview.
Yup.
And then she says once again, I just think people stereotype me in this way. And Nikki jumped in. Well, no, she didn't jump in. Chris says, Nikki, you're over there shaking your head. What do you think about it? And she said, well, I didn't stereotype you at all. All of my feelings about you are based on observation.
Yeah.
She really, yeah.
And then we actually, like, Natalie's trying to say this stuff about, like, they're questioning, like, they're saying, like, you got mad on one of the first days because we were in the pool and somebody splashed you.
Yeah,
and
it
you
was
were
like
worried
Melissa
about your hair or some
splashed
bullshit.
her or something, and
Um,
she got so pissed
again,
off.
very defensive.
And Natalie was like, "Oh, what? You think that's why I'm mad? You think that's why I'm mad?" But she never explained why she was mad. She was just like, "Fine, yeah, okay, I got splashed and I was mad," just to end the conversation.
And this is where Chris is like, you seem like someone who, I think you think you're very laid back, but do you think maybe you're one of those people who, like, you think you're laid back, but maybe you're really not?
Yeah.
And she gets on all this about, this is just me. I'm who I am. I'm loud. I'm over the top, whatever, which is normally when someone's trying to be like, I'm going to stand in my truth. Normally there's some support from the audience. It is completely fucking silent as she says all this.
So silent. It is so funny.
But now we get Jillian in the hot seat.
Yeah, so she gets in the hot seat. They show a montage of her relationship with Jason. And in her little reaction box, she seemed just, nostalgic and kind of, proud of the experience that she had.
Yeah.
Near the end there, she really teared up, of course, because she did.
Yeah.
Like she said, she did fall in love with Jason.
Mm-hmm. A really important thing that comes out here, because we talked about this on last week's episode, like, she looked so fucking confident in the rose ceremony.
Yeah, we said she was the only one who looked confident.
And then she actually says that was the first rose ceremony where she, like, genuinely felt unsure of where she stood with Jason, which is surprising.
Yeah.
Speaking of being unsure about things with Jason, Chris Harrison talks about, like, he asks about her hot dog test and says, like, Jason was, what was it, a mustard man? He was mustard. And he goes, do you think now, like, is he a sauerkraut now? That was the bad one, wasn't it? And she goes, no, he's not a sauerkraut. He's like 70% mustard and 20% ketchup.
Think about that for a second.
Give that a second.
70%.
Maybe he just doesn't.
Mustard.
No, you know what it is? He leaves 10% of the hot dog uncovered by condiments. That's what she was accounting for.
What does that mean, though?
It means he's 70% mustard, 20% ketchup, and 10% raw dog. This is that broke Kinsey very hard. But now we get a moment. Chris Harrison is talking, like, he brings up, I had the same conversation with Jason. He sat where you're sitting now. So I have to ask you, would you do it all again? Would you consider being the next Bachelorette? And she says that she would. She would consider it.
Yeah, like, people are psyched. Like, everyone...
Big cheer.
Yeah.
Big cheer.
So, I mean, we do know that Jillian is the next Bachelorette.
Yeah.
But there is no official announcement made here. So I'm wondering if they brought this up because they either already had her picked out and ready for the next season, and so they were
probing the audience.
Yeah, they were just testing the water, seeing if they would be into Jillian being the next Bachelorette.
Yeah. Then Jillian has a great line about you have to slay a few dragons before you can get a prince.
Yeah, you have to slay a couple dragons to get to the prince.
Love that. But now Jason comes out, and the most important thing we could possibly say about Jason coming out, being in the hot seat, he finally looks fucking decent.
And you know why?
He has proven, just irrevocably proven, he can't pick ties because he finally goes no tie, just a nice shirt, the collar's open, he's got his suit on, he looks slick.
Yeah.
Fucking finally he looks slick.
But, so Jason comes out, he's seeing the women again for the first time. They talk about Jillian, because this is the first time, Jillian's seen him since being sent home.
Yeah.
And the one thing she asks him, oh, it's so awkward.
Yeah.
But she says, so that first one-on-one date we had, we kissed, and then the next
night.
Like, the next night, you had a one-on-one date with Melissa, and you said you hadn't been kissed like that in a long time.
Yeah, she was like, so what the fuck is up?
Yeah.
And
Jason...
he was like, That's just how I was feeling at the time. And he's really scrambling, and she's like, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Jillian was just such a good sport.
A very good sport. But then we get some info on, like, why Jason broke up with Jillian. Well, and they also bring up Naomi, you know, because those are, respectively, the second and third runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
And for both of them, he's like, for Jillian, it was that whole thing about, I just don't think I could keep up with you. You're so adventurous, whatever.
Yeah.
And for Naomi, he brings up, like, you became a flight attendant. And for me, that's like, you have these big wings and you need to explore and travel the world and everything. So his reasons for dumping both of these women was a need that they had. It's not that they had it. It's he imposed that on them. That's what made them have, big air quotes, that need.
Yeah. Even though all of their words and their actions, I would argue,
proved otherwise.
He had this idea of what they wanted and what they needed based on, I don't know, either stereotypes about them or how they
his
acted
preconceptions.
In the past. Yeah.
And then just a nice moment.
Chris
asks him, like, you know, how you feel seeing Stephanie again, because you guys, it just seemed like you could have been so perfect for each other, but things just weren't quite there, or whatever. So how do you feel about seeing Stephanie for the first time since then? And he just goes, happy. I'm really happy to see. And you see Stephanie and she goes, it's all the same here. Like, it's so fucking wonderful.
Yeah, they say something about having a friendship, like hoping that friendship continues.
Yeah.
Because Stephanie is just a wonderful, wonderful person.
The best fucking person. But then Chris, I mean, of course it's, you know, there are no specifics, but he asks, like, are you happy with who you ended up picking? And he says that he is extremely happy.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, if you haven't, you know, seen the season before, but you're watching it now, or even if, you know, you aren't watching it at all, like, we don't want to give anything away of what's to come. But with him saying that, that means that either, you know, at this time, or, you know, possibly a little bit after this, like, we know there's some trouble in paradise.
Yes.
With this person he picked.
Yes, and we will talk about that not next episode, but the episode after.
Yes. And so then we get, like, a little rundown, like, some clips, a recap kind of thing of both Jason's relationship with Mel and Molly and, like, how he feels about them. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting here is the beginning of Melissa's little package. He says something about...
Well, she's the same type of person that
I would normally be attracted to.
Yeah, like Deanna or his ex.
Yes. But he says, but my heart of hearts is telling me...
Yeah, my heart of hearts tells me she's just not the one for me.
Yeah. But then he does, like, sort of go back on that. But then after that first date, my mind changed completely, or whatever.
But why'd you say tells, Jason? That's present tense.
It's just weird.
Yeah. Should be told me. But he says tells. Jason?
Yeah. And then there's this weird little package where it's basically like, hey, do you want to submit an application to be the next Bachelor?
Which is weird because usually don't they select the Bachelor from the previous season of The Bachelorette?
I would have said so, but maybe this is like their fallback. Like if every dude on The Bachelorette sucks shit, they're like, hey, we got some randos. Let's bring in an outside man.
Yeah, so they had a bunch of female contestants that had been on The Bachelor in the past being like, what am I looking for in a bachelor? And one person says, like, the perfect bachelor for me is the sound of coins in a piggy bank or something like that.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's like...
Another one says, not British.
Yeah, like, what are these women on?
Yeah.
What is going on with them?
And honestly, like, it sucks to say. I mean, it's some of the sort of criteria, a few of these women laid out, very reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, very realistic, and just understandable. But there were also a fair amount of them that were pretty superficial.
Very superficial.
Quite superficial. And then it gives a hotline, and I'm probably gonna fuck around and call it at some point just to see. But it's a horrible package. It's just all bad.
Yeah.
But we do get a teaser for the
Mhm.
next episode, and it's a lot of footage that we have seen before. But like the most noteworthy things that came from it were Ty. Oh wait, no, sorry. Well, no, we do have to comment on the fact that Ty just does not give a shit about Molly.
Ty does not like Molly.
He will not fuck with Molly. But Melissa, he seems pretty cool with. Seems to have a good time with Melissa. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. Then we see the clones again.
Yeah, God, the clone brothers. The matching set of brothers that Jason has.
Yeah.
Questioning both of these women,
Mm-hmm. And then we're shown a clip of Jason talking to his mom where he says, I said from the beginning I was not going to let Molly go, but also
Then I would say,
yeah,
I don't ever want to let Melissa go.
Right. So he's in a real pickle.
Yeah, it's made very clear that he, is really struggling to figure out what the right next move is.
Yeah, and then one thing to possibly throw a wrench into things is Deanna shows up.
Yeah, this is that thing, like, we've seen the whole, like, I don't remember what Chris Harrison would always say, but, he was like, something along the lines of, there's a shocking return, blah, 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 blah,
and
blah.
it changes everything.
There it is, and it changes everything. And I believe actually this time and last week, which was, where we'd already seen most of this footage, it's finally revealed that it is Deanna. It is the Bachelorette Jason. It's the one who brung him, and he can't decide if he should dance with her or not.
Yeah, and it says, is Jason really over Deanna? And it shows them talking and her doing that again. You haven't proposed yet. I still have a chance. And then a shot of Jason just breaking down crying.
Yes. But I mean, like, you've commented on this before. I don't know if you did on the podcast, but I know you have said this to me, like, he's wearing a different outfit.
Yeah, completely different outfit.
So, hi there, editors. You've come back again. Here you come again.
But yeah, next week, it's the finale.
The finale, the big one.
We'll find out who Jason proposes to. And of course, it's not the last episode of the season because there's an After the Final Rose.
Yes.
Where they check up on where Jason is. And they say in the teaser, this After the Final Rose is so emotional, so dramatic.
Well, he's like the same studio where they're doing the Women Tell All. We see that it's like empty and the lights are all down, and the lights come up on Chris Harrison standing on stage, and in like a very somber, serious tone, he says, the events that you are about to witness have potential to be so traumatic, so emotionally, like, distressing or something like that. That out of respect for all the parties involved, we have decided there will not be an audience for the taping of this show. Which, I mean, because we know what's to come, that was a very smart move on ABC's part.
Yeah.
They finally do something nice and considerate for one of their contestants. It's wild.
Imagine that.
Yeah, who'da fucking thunk it? But yeah, then that's the end of the teaser. That's the end of the episode. But there's another like just nice scene afterwards. After the like, it's I guess like during credits scene. Where Chris is saying something about like, so I'd like to bring out a man who's been on The Bachelor, been on the show as long as I have. You think you know who it is? Well, let's see. And now my first thought was Jorge.
Jorge
doesn't really count.
Bachelor in Paradise.
And I don't know if they even had Bachelor in Paradise at this point. I am almost certain they did not. But Jorge is always my assumption.
Jorge is the bartender at Bachelor in Paradise. Not this past
Not anymore.
One. Yeah.
But he was the bartender in Bachelor in Paradise. But he brings out the limo driver.
Caesar.
A man named Caesar. And it's funny, like, Caesar's walking out and he's beaming. Like, he's laughing. His
Yeah.
smile is so big. And he actually even says, I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
But Chris just thanks him, like, very genuinely thanks him. Tries to sort of kid him about, like, have any of the women in the limo ever tried to hit on you?
Yeah.
And Chris does wait for an answer. Caesar does not offer one.
He just laughs.
He just laughs a little bit, and then there's some silence, and Chris says, have any of the guys ever hit on
Yeah.
you? And that got another laugh, and Chris did the whole, like, well, we won't go there, because 2009.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that is, the end of though there was a 20-plus minute segment in the middle there that was a letdown.
Yeah. We always skip that.
Yeah.
We always skip right past it.
We did let it play this time,
Well,
but
this time we had to.
Yeah, that's true.
We did
Journalistic
it for
integrity.
You guys.
You're
So-
fucking welcome.
Yeah, you better thank us.
But yeah, other than that, that we have found our way to the conclusion of a very satisfying, I would say, women tell all. Other than the fact that Stephanie didn't get to talk more.
Yeah.
Also, I wish Raquel could have called
Yes.
Molly out for stealing her
Yes.
fucking dance.
Which I'm surprised they didn't ask Raquel anything because she was the one who snuck out into the car.
Oh yeah, into his car.
Yeah.
Fuck. How was she? She didn't say a fucking word.
She did not say a single thing.
It's buck wild to me. How are you going to bring someone back as one of the most memorable women from the season and have them do nothing? Like, barely even acknowledge them. Raquel got to wave, and that was her only form of communication.
Yep. And she was, like, over in the corner, so she was, like, never even on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. But other than the fact that a couple people got done dirty, pretty solid. Women tell all.
Very good.
So, let's all look forward to the next episode, not of The Bachelor so much, but of the podcast where we get to talk about all the horse shit that goes on there, because it's always horse shit.
Always.
All right, yeah, there's the episode.
Woo!
Woo! I'll go ahead and say real quick, just because I should have said it before, like, if you have enjoyed the podcast at all, like, go ahead and, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which we're probably going to end up making a new YouTube channel because right now it's on my personal channel and I don't want that anymore. So we're probably going to get a YouTube channel specifically for the show. Unfortunately, we will not be able to change the fact that it is on my account on Apple Podcasts, or at least if there is a way to change that, I don't know how we would. So for now, we're going to assume that we can't. But subscribe to the channels if you like it. I'll definitely let everybody know when the YouTube channel changes. Tell your friends.
Yes.
Recommend it to people. Let's get the word out.
Recommend the podcast, not The Bachelor.
Yes, I was going to say, it's very important that you make it clear no one is recommending The Bachelor. No one at all.
Ugh.
But with all that said, all the little house cleaning stuff done, Kenzie, do you have anything you wanted to say here at the end of the podcast? No, again, just like the last time I asked. All right, well then with all that, I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kenzie Brenton.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
My one and only prayer is that someday you care. My hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one will ever know how much I love you so. My prayers, my hopes, and my schemes. You are my everything.